Hey, everyone, it's Isaiah. Welcome. This is another episode of my podcast, Isaiah's Inspiring Evenings. This is an episode two of a new series that you might have caught episode one. If you haven't, go run. What are you waiting for? So, this series is a series of conversations with the incredible Dr. Sheri Elle Brown. Hey, Sheri.
Hi.
And we have decided to call these conversations Aligned and Unstoppable because, as you'll see, or rather as you'll hear, Dr. Sheri is all about alignment. So it's a series about shifting from hustle to alignment, from stepping into authentic power and embracing, multidimensional confidence. So, as always in this podcast, the conversations are recorded live. We seldom edit them, and then I share them in my podcast. Before we go too deeply into the topic of today's podcast, I would like to introduce a little bit our guest. So, Dr. Sheri Elle Brown is a spiritual psychologist, abundance mindset mentor, intuitive empowerment coach, life and business coach, human potential catalyst. I love that. Founder of ZenFlow. And by the way, we will talk about that a little bit at the end of this episode. So, combining decades of expertise in psychology, energy work, and the multidimensional nature of human potential, Dr. Sheri empowers purpose driven individuals to align with their true selves and create lives they love. Her signature ZenFlow OS system bridges spirituality with structure, offering actionable strategies for clarity, alignment, and abundant creation. Whether guiding clients to overcome limiting beliefs, shift into higher vibrations, or intentionally manifest their visions, Dr. Sheri's heart centered approach inspires transformation on every level. Known for her ability to blend science, soul, and strategy, she creates a unique space where personal growth and empowerment can flourish. Dr. Sheri's mission is simple: to help you remember who you truly are and thrive as the powerful co creator of your reality. Hey, that's a big mission. Simple, but big. And I know you can do it. So today's episode is called Owning Your Power Beyond Fear, the Confidence Frequency. Big topic, right?
I
Confidence.
love
That's
it.
one of those words that is actually um, very often frightening people. Are you confident? Ooh, there's ooh, I don't know. Am I? Um, and one of the things that I've heard so much about confidence is, oh, but confidence is easy. Fake it till you make it. What do you think of that? Do you think that's the way to go? Kind of going through, oh, I'm going to pretend I'm confident and that's going to make me confident.
It's such a great question. My first immediate gut response is fake it till you make it to me is kind of a little old school, but I would not want to just say it's an impossibility. I think it
Mm.
was kind of an old mindset hack in a lower vibration, like third, fourth dimensional reality. But and we can talk about different dimensional realities for sure. The thing about fake it until you make it that I don't want to just sort of like poo-poo is if you're unsure, but you fake that you are not unsure and you engage in some aligned action, or you're listening to the whispers of your soul, or you are feeling brave, or you are just going to say, what the heck, I'm doing this, I have fear, I'm jumping in with 2 feet, I will fake it until I make it. We definitely can engage in aligned action with that intention and come out on the other side feeling confident.
So, kind of, instead of fake it till we make it, we could replace that with align it till we feel it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the new energy of our
Mm.
human consciousness. So I think fake it until you make it can be an immediate hack that is not
Mhm.
completely outdated, but I don't think it's sustainable.
Yeah, I
It
agree. I agree.
needs to
But
come
still,
from a different
the
place.
still I think that the idea of going to daring to do it, even if you're not 100%, can take you some of the way. Is that what what you were saying, right?
Yeah, and I don't think it's sustainable, but I don't think, oh my gosh, Isaiah, I have to tell you, I can't, I'm trying to like think of any time in my life that I faked it until I made it. I'm trying to think. Well, and I think it kind of runs completely counter to alignment, to soul-fueled confidence, to to living authentically, right? It's
Yeah, well,
almost,
I have an example.
yeah.
When I started this podcast, I was faking it till I made it. Really, I was not sure that I could be a host in a podcast. I wanted to do it. I felt like it was something that was calling me, but I was not sure because I'd never done it before. So I kind of decided, okay, it feels right. It feels aligned. It feels that this is something that I love to talk and I love to meet people. So it felt aligned, but I was not feeling 100% confident when I started. And I still am not. There are days where I think, okay, what am I going to ask this amazing woman that is going to bring an interesting conversation? So yeah, it did take me a little of the way, not all the way, but the idea that I could jump into unknown territory, not faking it, but still, deciding, okay, I'm going to present myself as a podcast host, and we'll see what happens.
I love that. And, fake it until you make it. Maybe it's just sort of a generic term,
Mm,
really, to say, face the fear. And I think, it's kind of interesting that we landed here because to me, and I know that particularly on an entrepreneurial journey, we're doing that all the time.
mm,
And so when you just commented something to the effect that, you know, and I really do think it's a human experience for sure, but I think in an entrepreneurial realm, every day is a new day.
mm.
Every moment is a new moment, right? We are human beings, and we all have that experience of feeling amazing and sure and confident in what we believe, what we're putting out there, the impact that we want to create and have in one moment. And then 5 minutes later, it's like, what was I thinking? Why did I think I could do that? So I do think it's very unique and true for entrepreneurs in general. I totally agree with you. It's kind of like my new YouTube channel. I've been wanting to do it forever, probably 2 years. And I kind of kept thinking about, and I mean, and I'm just going to say this, I can say it because I'm just completely self-effacing. Being a I have a lot of Gemini in my astrology, like Sun, Rising, Mercury, Venus, Mars, all in Gemini. And
Wow.
so even for me, I never know what I'm gonna get from my own personal experience, right? Geminis are a little bit, you know, kind of a little bit all over the place. And so with my YouTube channel, I definitely was feeling called to do it for quite a while, but I thought long and hard about what is my persona? Like,
Mm,
what am I'm going to show up different every day. Like, what am I going to talk about? And blah, 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 the whole bit. And I thought, I think that that's the thing. Fake it until you make it is really understanding that we don't have to be perfect.
mm.
We just need to show up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree that the this might be um or I feel I'm not going to, maybe you don't agree. I feel that the perfectionism is the one of the big obstacles on the way to feeling confidence. Because if I need everything to be perfect until I actually feel confident, this is going to be a long, 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 long journey. Um,
Right.
and so for me, it's about letting go of that perfectionism and entering the realm of imperfect and still confident.
I agree. We're human, and I think by default we are imperfect. You know, nothing is ever going, we are never going to, I don't want to say never. We can create magical circumstances where everything feels very flowy and seemingly perfect. But but if we wait for perfection, we're never going to get to that space to trust life
Mm,
and create.
yeah,
And I
I
know
agree.
you know with your podcast, I know with YouTube, I'm so excited about making videos. They're definitely not perfect. I mean, I had two episodes where I had to kind of get off camera because I had corgi fur stuck to my lip, and I'm not going to edit that out, I think that there's something so beautiful about just showing our humanness and
Yeah,
our imperfections in a really profound way. I think for many people that are waiting or faking till they make it, which I know is the big topic really for today's episode, but there's procrastination and perfectionism are of the same energy.
yeah.
And it's no fun. It never feels, I'd rather honestly fake it until I make it to feel good
Mm,
than put something off because
yeah.
that feeling is not a nice feeling.
No, I also think, I always say that perfection is means that is something is not moving. Because when you reach
Right,
perfection, you don't want it to change ever, right?
right,
So the only thing that I know of that is perfect and AKA not moving is dead.
right,
Dead things. Obviously, statues are perfect. They're not moving, but they're not alive.
right.
We, on the other hand, are human beings and we are alive. We have our souls, to my opinion, have chosen to come to the earth to incarnate as human beings. And so, if we were ever to reach perfection, we would immediately lose it because of movement, of constant movement of life, because you have corgi hair in your mouth, or because I don't know, because I, need to blow my nose and suddenly there's a big noise of me blowing my nose in the middle of the podcast and I forgot to mute myself. And that happens. Or the first episodes of the podcast that I did, I didn't have a guest. I was talking to myself basically. And it was very much written and everything because I wanted to control everything. I wanted to be. And then I spent hours and hours editing, and I took off, I realized that I breathe very loudly when I read or when I record myself. And I was like, oh, I can't have this. So I kind of deleted all that. And it felt like a robot was talking. It was perfect, all right, but it felt dead, completely dead. And I thought, I hate doing it. And the result is dead. It's taken all the life out of it. So
Right, right.
I really, I now I'm afraid of perfectionism. I beware of it. I see it and I think, you're killing something. What are you killing? you know. So when I have this call for perfectionism, I resist it actively.
I agree. And, it's very interesting. And this may be a little tangential. I have about 20
Yeah,
million thoughts running through my head in the moment. It kind of goes back to what you and I were talking about right before you hit record for this episode. And we were talking about the idea of being number one. And, what does it mean to be number one? Like, and I've been really experiencing the idea of this lately. Not that it has not been a major theme in my entire life this time around. I think that it has. I have been saying and I do want to talk about confidence, obviously, because that's really where we're going with this, right? It's really about the confidence to align, be authentic, and really trust life and all of its
yeah,
flaws and imperfections, and really trust ourselves as the co-creators that we are. the thing about trying to control, I think, and make things perfect, and I will get back to the number one story that I wanted to share. But the thing about controlling and trying to keep things perfect aligned with a vision in a very strict way really is, I think, wildly myopic because we're shutting out all of the possibilities and the magic that the universe is trying to
Mm.
bring to us,
Yeah.
right? We want to have wiggle room. We want to trust life enough where we are creating space and leeway to allow that magic to come in.
Yeah.
Because I think from a very human three-dimensional point of view, if we are living in our physical three-dimensional reality and shutting out the magical aspect of who we are, we're really missing the bigger picture of how we
Mm.
can experience ourselves, the universe, and life coming through us in a really beautiful, profound, serendipitous way, you know? And so I do think that controlling things in our perceived reality can really begin to limit the
Yeah.
possibilities of what really can be extraordinary.
Yeah, that's, in you're saying exactly the same thing as I said. What am I killing? And I'm killing possibilities. I'm killing potential when I'm trying to control everything and to orient everything towards a perfectionist idea. And that goes with the being number one thing, because being number one is, for me, has now become completely ridiculous. I can't say more than that, because there is no only one. There's only me, right? There's only me of me. So I am number one, and you are too, because
That's the
and
nature of
everybody is,
reality. Right.
exactly. I'm the
Right.
if I'm going to be confident in my authenticity, or authentic in my confidence, whichever way you want to put it, um, that means that there's only one of me, and so I am the best me that can be. Right there, so I'm number
It's such
one
a
of me.
beautiful way to, it is, it's a beautiful way to say it because, and I think in the bigger vision of that is, oh my gosh, I love where we're going with all of this. And I do have to comment on the number one part of this. But the bigger vision and understanding is we are all our own number ones. We are all our own sovereign souls, our own beautiful identity at that soulful, energetic level. And I mean, it definitely just completely transcends and transmutes our understanding. It's not about self-care. I mean, it is, but self-care is sort of the three-dimensional way,
Yeah.
I think, to
Yeah.
describe really how we can experience ourselves in an energetic, multi-dimensional, soulful way. And when we really lean into how sovereign we are, it really, I think, changes the landscape, our perception, our mindset, where we begin to see we really don't have to answer to anyone but
Yeah.
ourselves and our calling. And
Absolutely.
so it's
And
huge, it's
that
profound.
also, I think, yeah, I think that also, if I look for this authentic confidence, or this confident authenticity, and remember that there's only one of me, that gets rid also of another obstacle, which is self-doubt.
Right.
Because if I'm not trying to be you, or to be better than you, or to be less than, if I'm not comparing myself, then I cannot doubt myself. There is, the only thing that I can do is not listen, or that I could do is not listen to whatever I need to listen to get a better self, a better, to grow, because I think we are still always invited to grow. But it's self-doubt is always increased by comparison or by competition, which doesn't exist if I stick to my lane, which is being me.
It doesn't exist. And the number one thing again that I do want to get back to, because I feel as though lately it's been a theme that has been popping up for me. And it's been popping up, well, I'll say it a different way. I think that I always described myself as being a type A personality, an overachiever, and I just kind of have ascribed those words to me for a very long time. It's not that I can't be mellow. I'm good at being mellow too. Like I have a little more duality than that. Like I'm not off my rocker. But it occurred to me not too long ago that what if I'm not a huge type A personality or an overachiever, but I definitely instead have been listening to my soul for a very long
Mm,
time. So maybe it wasn't overachieving. Maybe it was a part of me wanting to be and do and have and experience myself and my life to the fullest that I possibly have
mm,
been able to do. So that has been like the latest theme kind of bubbling up for me. But I do have to say this about the number one thing. I've been taking care of my mom. She's elderly. She's got some health issues. And I just adore her and I will drop everything for her in any moment. So so I'm definitely spending like a good amount of time
mm,
in that space of thinking about my mom, worrying about my mom, taking care of my mom. And then I'll come home and then I'll forget that the corgis didn't have a fresh bowl of water or something. And I find myself getting into that conversation of, you know, I'm not being the best for my mom. I'm not being the best for my
mm,
dogs. I'm not being my best self in my business because I feel like spreading myself too thin to take care of everything around me. And that kind of bubbled up and I don't want to get off track, but it goes back to number one, it goes back to confidence, it goes back to alignment and the big things like non-attachment, the spiritual aspect of why we're here, what this is about, and like why relaxing into co-creating and feeling confident really matters.
mm,
And so as of late, I definitely have been having little iterations of conversations in my mind of why do I feel not good enough for anyone in the moment, which is very weird for me.
mm,
I in general feel super confident and, in flow and loving what I do. And I think the bigger point that I'm making is, and it goes back to what you are saying, we don't have to answer to anybody but ourselves
mm,
and our soul. And that's it. And part of what I'm getting at here is it can easily shift all the conversations
yeah,
of comparing, of self-doubt, of not being enough or number one, or, you know, working too hard or forcing things to happen. When we get back to alignment and understanding our true nature as sovereign souls and we're our own number one,
mm,
we can
yeah,
release all of that lower vibration, three-dimensional or fourth dimensional kind of conversations that we've got ruminating and just simply let them go into the ethers.
yeah.
They're
I
not
agree.
real. They're not
No,
real.
no, they're not. Okay, so I have to ask a question, like a big one, um, because you talk about multidimensional alignment. Can you elaborate? What the hell is that? What do you mean by that?
It's really interesting to me, and I don't know how I landed kind of in this multidimensional space. I think, wait, I can tell you why, and I'll keep it very, very short. And it kind of goes back to fake it until you make it. Mindset is not mindset to me, as I interpret it and how I live it and how I teach it, is not just a psychological construct. It is
Agree.
not just fake it till you make it. Shift your thought and you can create a new habit and To me, there's nothing wrong with that. It's all good. It's all fine. It just never really resonated with me because vibrationally, it's very three-dimensional, maybe fourth dimensional energy. And so, what do I mean by that? And I think I might want to share this just for fun. I remember taking physics when I was about 20 years old. And I remember learning about superpositioning of electrons around atoms. And theoretical physicists were kind of observing particles and light and the positioning of atoms. And every time they observed that atom, that light, that particle, it would disappear. And so, physicists, I don't even know. I mean, I'm going back at least 30-ish years, from when I learned it. So this idea of superpositioning has been around a very long time. And theoretical physicists were kind of like, oh my gosh, electrons and particles of light are going in and out of dimensions all the time. And I thought, oh my gosh, well, if they are, then we are.
Yeah.
We are in essence in our physical bodies and everything that makes us who we are in terms of the molecules and the atoms and the subatomic particles and the light and all that. I mean, at the end of the day, we're light beings.
Mm.
We're moving in and out of dimensions all the time. It's multidimensional. So I just kind of dug my heels in and I thought, I don't want to talk about mindset from purely a physical three-dimensional
Mm.
reality standpoint. And I definitely don't even want to talk about it from an intellectual fourth
Mm.
dimensional reality standpoint. So third dimensional reality is our physical reality where we believe everything is fixed as humans in general, where we are separate from all that is because we're in this physical body in a lower vibration. And then, fourth dimensional reality has been a part of our human journey since we have been on the planet this time around, where, if you think about like self-help books or intellectualizing how to solve a
Mm.
problem or using our mind, right? Our beautiful intellect, which it's an amazing thing and experience. And we
Yeah, even
humans
the law
have
of
to be.
attraction is very often an intellectual construction.
Right, exactly. And so, there's nothing wrong at all with living in that fourth dimensional intellectual space, but there's more to us than that. So if reality seems fixed in the third dimension and in the fourth dimension, and I think that this might be a good thing for everyone to hear, when I think about my own personal journey of healing from my little bit of a wonky dysfunctional childhood, I couldn't wait to buy my very first self-help book. So self-help is definitely fourth dimensional energy.
Mm.
Like we need to fix who we are. There's nothing wrong with that. Our subconscious mind and our programming and all of that stuff where we want to reframe or release or rewire, it's fourth dimensional. But when we move into fifth dimensional energy, there's nothing to fix.
Mhm.
We're at one energetically with light and all that is, we're light beings. And so, in my very long, long story that I just shared, as I was moving into my mindset journey to help others shift and create and become and understand how powerful they are as co-creators, I just couldn't I could not reduce the idea of mindset down to a third or fourth dimensional intellectual construct. It really needed to be energetic. And so that's what I mean by having a multidimensional mindset. So if we're experiencing, let's say, I think I just talked about this in one of my YouTube videos. If we're having a disagreement with someone in the three-dimensional world, we can kind of meet that same three-dimensional energy. And, that's when we can bump heads or get into an argument or whatever. We can move into fourth dimensional reality and intellectually try to problem solve that dispute or disagreement, or we can move into fifth dimensional reality and just see everything from an energetic standpoint. So we don't have to split hairs about, as you and I were talking about self-doubt or not feeling confident or, bumping heads with somebody else in an energetic and light way in that fifth dimensional energy. We can really transcend all of that and get back to the business of creating what we want our reality to look like.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna try and give an example, and you're going to tell me if I'm right, if I got it
Okay.
right, because I think it might help people understand. So yesterday, I'm a member of a singing group, and we sing songs in languages that we don't speak. So we were singing in Armenian yesterday. So obviously, it's kind of crazy difficult and also crazy fun. And we have an amazing chef that helps us, a conductor that helps us with that. Yesterday I was so I'm a member of different groups, and yesterday I'm in a group. I wanted to sing in a group that I'm quite new in. Although some of the songs that they do I've done before, but some of the songs I haven't done before. So here I am, and I'm quite loud when I sing because I go there to sing, not to hide. So I can be heard. And this woman turns to me after we finished one song and says, "You were wrong at this and this point." So this woman is not the conductor, right? She's not the boss of me. And I could feel myself. Am I going to go third dimensional on her and say, "You cunt," basically? What the hell? I've been singing for 40 freaking years. Who the hell are you? If the conductor has something to say against my singing, he will. You have no right, and I could feel the anger, but I was detached from it. So I thought, okay, I'm not doing it third dimension. Am I going now to explain to this woman that she's wrong? That actually I was singing right and she was not understanding it correctly. So was I going to go fourth dimensional on her and go on the intellectual explanation? And I looked at her and I thought, oh, I can't be bothered. I really can't be bothered. She can let her believe she's right. I don't care, basically. And at this instant, I felt myself energetically switching and thinking, how if you wanted to spend your evening criticizing others, fine, I will spend my evening singing.
Did you say that?
No, I said it inside in my head because I also felt I'm not the jackass whisperer. Let's put it this way. It's not my freaking job to explain to everyone that when I work with clients, of course I will do that. And, but this is somebody that she doesn't want to be lectured. I don't have to. But I felt myself really going up in some kind of way and thinking, oh no, I'm not going to let this affect my energy. I came here to sing. I love singing. It's part of the big joys in my life. And I'm not going to let you destroy that. Is that a good example of three,
I
four,
think
third?
it's an amazing example. And, as you were talking, and it kind of was leading me down a path that was easily going to bring us into the space of confidence. I want to say it this way. When we talk about third, fourth, and fifth dimensional reality, we're really talking about a vibration. And so, in 3D reality, even things that are solid still have molecules moving in them. We're at a lower vibration. Everything is still moving in three-dimensional reality. Um, and I definitely don't want to lose my train of thought because it'll lead me right into talking about confidence. So in 3D reality, and I'm with you, it reminds me of when I was having issues in my body with my autoimmune deficiency. Um, could you hear that ping? My text can come through my computer. Okay, good.
Not very loudly, so
Okay.
we'll
And
just
speaking of
ignore it.
speaking of three-dimensional reality, my sister is texting me right now and whatever. That's another whole story. But what I'm getting at is in that lower vibration and being human and having this thing called an ego, it is very easy for someone to say, you're singing loudly and you sang it wrong. our egos are immediately going to say, what? Right? That's when
Exactly.
we can get ourselves into trouble in a lower vibration. And then when we move up into fourth dimensional reality, the vibration of intellectual energy is higher and can be solution oriented. And I think the beautiful part about kind of almost combining fourth and fifth dimensional energy is that we can use our intellect and the
Yeah.
love, higher vibration of love infused into the words we use. So, fourth dimensional reality doesn't necessarily mean we're intellectualizing things entirely. It can be using our words to heal,
Yeah.
to
Of course.
create peace, so there's that beautiful aspect. And in fifth dimensional energy, because it's really about light and vibration in a much higher way, this sounds maybe a little bit kind of odd, but it reminds me in terms of like Christ consciousness when he was really talking about turning the other cheek.
Mm.
I've interpreted that as really turning the other vibrational cheek. It's really turning the vibrational cheek, right? Doesn't matter. It's our egos that are telling us, oh no, you've got to be engaged in this fight.
Yeah.
You've got to be engaged. You've got to have a boundary. You've got to stand up for yourself. That's what we humans need to do. And it's always a judgment call.
Yeah.
But I do think every time we choose to perceive ourselves and our lives and our experiences in a higher vibration, we're way more attractive and life definitely flows in a much more beautiful, light-centered, heart-centered way.
Yeah. And to end this story, and I purposefully did not tell you the end until
Woo!
now, actually, I was wrong. I was wrong. So all
There
this
you
thing,
go.
and the conductor at some point said, "Listen, you need to go slower or whatever it was that I was doing wrong." And I thought to myself, "Well, good then, you know, because the confidence that I felt that I was right before, it led me to not counterattacking. It led me to not trying to explain to this woman anything. It led me to feeling confident that I was right." And then to keep on singing and be my joy, even if I was wrong. So I thought that was really kind of, the confidence thing. You can even make mistakes and be confident.
Absolutely. And I'm quite sure I've had many examples of that in my life. I'm sure as we all have. I think that that's part of how we can be intentional about how we choose to live our lives, be very keen observers of ourselves, of our reality, and then take a breath and then
Mhm.
decide how to manage something, a situation ourselves. I love that you waited to share that. And, it kind of goes back to, getting back into this idea of confidence and, what the ego is all about, the psychological construct of ego. And the more how can I say this in a different way? And I want to get back to this I hopefully a much more profound, impactful way. I think that the psychological construct of ego and confidence really does matter. It is solar plexus energy. It's beautiful energy. There's a vibration to it. Our solar plexus definitely gives us that energetic momentum and focus and feedback in terms of feeling good about who we
Mhm.
are as a human
Yeah.
being. For sure, it does. I felt as a woman entrepreneur over the last 25 plus years of my life that great, the solar plexus is there for me. I feel good about who I am. I choose to do good things for humanity and raising the vibration. My sense of self-worth is pretty solid, but it was not translating into sustainable, powerful, energy to get my creative downloads and how I felt about myself very, very clear so I could confidently create my reality.
Mm-hmm.
When we confidently create our reality, I think men are beautiful at doing this because
Mm-hmm.
men have that beautiful, to me, like the solar plexus is, the embodiment of masculine energy, that fire energy. Men are singularly focused in general. They get their eye on the prize, they take action, they feel good about it, they create it. And how could I say this? I'm definitely not saying this is a positive or negative in any way. I think it's the
No,
nature
I
of
hear you.
masculine energy.
Of course.
And I think that women, our energy is generally not that. I think women, we tend to multitask. We tend to, because it's the feminine energy where we're receiving the creative downloads, right? We can have 10 ideas for 10 different novels at the exact same time.
Yep. And write
And
none
so
of it.
Right. And so, how do we get into that space with the way that we receive information through God source, the universe, one mind, however you want to call it, fifth dimensional energy and beyond fifth dimensional energy? How do we get clarity on the best things to create and put it into the world for impact, but how do we create it and do it with confidence? And to me, that's where the idea for me of soul fueled confidence
Mm-hmm.
really was born, because it is much more aligned with the feminine aspect. It to me is much more sustainable. It definitely aligns with soul. It definitely aligns with exactly what you are saying, that we are our own number one.
Mm. Yeah.
Nothing is wrong. Everything that we hear and decide to bring into the world into physical form, all of it is right.
Mm.
It can't be any other way. It's coming from source. And so really the alignment and really creating that soul fueled confidence feels much more empowered because we have the entire universe inside of us and all around us to create,
Mm-hmm.
rather than the little tiny psychological construct of ego, telling us to fake it until we make it.
Mm.
It's just so much more powerful.
I agree. I agree. And I'm going to challenge you because I believe that for some of the people listening, the problem or the issue is not the fifth dimension, is getting rid of the third one. Let me explain what I mean. A few years back, I was an avid smoker. So I smoked for 35 years of my life, and I decided that I was done with that. So I took a month of my life, I dedicated a whole month, and I did nothing but become a non smoker again. I literally brainwashed myself into believing that I was a non smoker. And you know what? I believed myself. So I I'm not smoking anymore and I will never smoke again. I know that for an absolute fact. This was not only a mind journey, so it was not a fourth dimensional. I was literally writing every day my commitment to the idea of becoming a non-smoker again. It was not only a soul endeavor, and it was because I was creating art. That every day I was creating art with putting intentions in colored forms and art marks on one canvas that is now that thick because I spent 30 days creating layers and layers of it. So it was a soul mission or a soul thing, but it was also a body thing. And I need to say that because there are so many, I find myself with so many of my clients who are detached from their body. They feel that the world is harsh. The third dimension world is harsh, that shit is going on, basically, or that they have issues with their bodies. And so they'd rather be a soul. Tough luck, we are not. We have decided this time around Our souls have decided to incarnate, to come into this body. And trying to pretend we don't have it is not going to get us anywhere. At least that's my belief. And I know that for me, being confident in my mind and in my soul, in my vibration, does not replace feeling confident in my body as well. So I think it's a whole thing. It's a whole package. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It absolutely makes sense. And I love that this is where we're going with this because I think I will try to trim this story as much as I possibly can.
We
When I
still have
was
time.
27, and I may have talked about this in our last episode, when I was 27, my appendix ruptured.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I went to urgent care or emergency room, they kept sending me away and telling me, "You've got bad cramps from your cycle. You're fine." And I'm like, "No, I've been vomiting for 2, 3 days. No, 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 you're fine." Finally, by day 4, I woke up and I said, "If I don't get to the hospital now, I'm not going to make it. Like, I
Mm,
know that I'm on my way out." And it was a horrific experience, yada, yada, yada. But here I am 30 years later, not quite, but almost. And I had a near-death experience. And I think I did mention this to you on our last call.
you did,
So
but it does matter. It.
I could see my soul, you know, through different timelines, through different
Hmm.
lives. I definitely had the complete understanding, as complete as I could at that time, of feeling the essence of who I was across time.
Hmm.
And I know that we all know this. We all know the essence of who we are, the energy of our souls, what makes us laugh, what gets us excited, what helps us be creative, like all of the fundamental aspects. Like I could tell, I could feel like, oh, so I was fighting for women's suffrage in the 1920s. Now I get why I'm this badass or whatever. Right. And so why am I bringing that up? Because I definitely got very clear during this near-death experience that I wasn't my body at all.
Hmm.
I definitely was like, okay, if I live, I'm going to focus on my intellectual development and my spiritual development. And I did.
Mm,
I did. I went back to school. I earned a PhD. I mean, I had been meditating already at this point, but definitely took it to another level
mm,
of, being a devotee and, Yogananda and like my own personal spiritual journey. But I definitely, and I want to say I kind of left my body in the dust, and that would be an exaggeration. I was still eating right and going to the gym, but going back to what your clients are telling you, if they're feeling called, if they know that they're a soul, if they are drawn to go home back into the non-physical reality, they are definitely, and I'm saying this with my own experience, I was in complete denial about living in three-dimensional
yeah,
reality. I came here for a reason. I'm in my body for a
yeah,
reason. And life presents us with lower vibrational challenges and experiences for us to decide what we want our
mm,
reality to
yeah,
actually be for us.
yeah.
And it's
And
huge.
I really believe that, we cannot and we should not, I don't like to use the word should, but I do, deprive ourselves from the physical experience because this is the choice that we've made this time around. So
Right, right.
this is part of, singing. I need a voice to do that. So I need vocal cords. And this is part of what brings me so much joy. And I know that it brings joy to my mind, but it also brings joy to my soul. And it couldn't if I'm if I was just a being of light. So this time around, I chose to be able to sing. Let me sing then. Let
And
allow
I
myself to sing, kind of.
I
Um,
agree. And I think, and I love that you asked that question because I think for me, that question has been a part of my personal journey where I remember being in the hospital after I lived with my appendix rupturing, and I was living in New Mexico at the time. And I walked to the end of the corridor and opened the door to the hospital and just kind of stood on this tiny little balcony. I'm sure I wasn't allowed to be out there, but I was on this little balcony and I'm looking over the desert, like west of Albuquerque toward the desert of like Hopi and Navajo land. And it's very magical. The energy is super powerful. And I just remember looking out there thinking, when the hell am I just going to trust life?
Mm.
When am I really thought I was going to go home, and now here I am, home meaning into the
Yeah.
ether,
Hmm.
not back to my physical house, and I just remember thinking, what the heck is all of this about? When we are in tune, when we are evolved, when we came here as a much more self-aware soul, of course we want to go back to the non-physical because this journey can be absolutely insane and heartbreaking and a lot of those things. But the beautiful part is we get to hug each other. We
Yeah.
get to sing. We get to enjoy an amazing meal and a glass of wine. We get to touch things and live life through our five senses in a really powerful, beautiful way that I do not, with all of the other beings that are out into this infinite universe, I don't know how many planets are actually like this Earth
Yeah.
that we're on.
Yeah.
There's nothing
And
like
there, for
this.
me, there's always the memory or the absolute certitude. I'm 100% confident that I made the choice this
Right.
time around to be here
We do. It's a
as
very
as a
conscious choice.
and so there must be a reason. And it cannot be just to experience hardships. So, let me see, why did I make this choice? What is there to experience as an incarnated human this time around that can bring me growth, development, joy, happiness, love, whatever you want to call it. Um, and that is what gives me confidence. The three dimensions, not the third, but the three of them all together. The fact that there is my physical experience, there is my psychological mind experience, and there is my soul experience. And the fact that the three are woven together, that's what makes me, first of all. And that was what makes me confident that I'm here for a reason.
Absolutely. And
And
I
that,
think that
the people who live without the conscience of their soul are like deprived, to my opinion.
right,
So are people who live without thinking. And so
right.
are people who try to live without their bodies because we're the three of them. We can't. And maybe
It's
even
really, I mean, at the end of the day,
more.
it's about integration. It
Yeah.
really is
Hmm.
about integration, appreciation. And I think that it's really important too to remember that our first co-creative experience in a particular lifetime begins when we decide to incarnate.
I agree.
How much more powerful can we possibly be, right? When we really begin to think about in communication, in intention, energetically, in a conversation with God or source or the universe or whatever we want to call it that resonates with us, to be able to have a sacred contract where we're saying, okay, I'm doing this.
Mm. Yeah.
It's so powerful. And I think that that's really where, and it kind of goes back to exactly what you're saying. That's the confidence is coming from having an understanding and an awareness and a knowing that we are powerful,
Yeah.
multi-dimensional beings moving in
Yeah.
between third, fourth, fifth dimensional reality and beyond,
Yeah.
for people that know that they're visiting Pleiades or the
Hmm.
Arcturians, right? There are other energies going on out there in
Of
other
course,
dimensions.
of course.
But
And loving that, including the hardships,
it's
because
amazing.
this is why we came, right? This
Yeah,
is why we came. I this time around.
it's
And
amazing.
you know, I know that I've been an angel before, but not this time. This time I'm not.
Right, right.
And only as a human can I experience chocolate. So, you know, that's a reason altogether. Or, you know,
I am
or hugs,
totally
as you
with
were saying,
you.
hugs.
You
Um,
know, or putting my face like right into the neck of my corgi.
yeah.
What a beautiful thing, you know,
Mm.
and it's just about being in that moment of like really experiencing this touchy-feely three-dimensional reality.
And I think that the acceptance of that is what makes us confident in our power. The accept, just like you said, basically. I'm repeating yourself.
Well, you know,
So,
and it kind of goes back to the idea of just surrendering. And I think when we were talking about throat chakra last time around, and you mentioned Athena, there's a phenomenal amount of power in just surrendering to this experience
yeah.
and really relaxing into it.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, because I'm the goddess person, when you were talking about this, the solar plexus, um, I find it really interesting, your view of the solar plexus, because there are two goddesses that are linked with the solar plexus. So two women energy. One
Oh,
is
I love it.
the Celtic goddess Breed or Brigid, who is the fire goddess, basically. She's the fire maiden who will kick ass and help us to kick ass. So she has a masculine energy, but she's definitely a woman, a goddess. And the other one is the Greek goddess Estia, who is goddess of the hearth. And so she's a fire goddess as well. Very much quieter energy, but completely dedicated to keeping the sacred flame alive, whichever sacred flame we're talking about. So in Greece, we consider that this sacred flame, this alignment with myself. And again, we're talking about confidence. So Estia is very much about that. So I find interesting that, and she has literally no masculine energy, but she's still a fire goddess. She's still a solar plexus goddess. So
I love that. And you know, if I remember correctly, I feel as though Brigitte was around me at some point on my own life journey. Um,
oh, it
just
makes
because I've
no
got,
doubt with me. I look at your
yeah.
face and I know that you've met her.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah, yeah. No,
nice.
I'm connected with the goddesses, so I know that. I can.
Uh, and I
That's my way of feeling energy.
and I
Um,
definitely came into this life with an awful lot of Irish energy this time around for sure. But I think that what you're saying really matters because part of what you know, when I'm working with a client and part of what I teach with this ZenFlow framework of mine is really leaning into soul-fueled confidence and that beautiful feminine energy, having it meet that masculine, more egoic solar plexus confidence and integrating them in a way where you get to decide
mm,
that balance and what makes you feel really, really good and empowered and ready to move forward and take action. And I love that you brought up the goddesses because you know, as women, we're of course we're fiery too,
yeah,
right?
exactly. But
We've
it's
got
a
it going
different
on.
way. It's not, obviously it's not a masculine way. The other thing that I wanted to mention also around the
But I
solar
love that.
plexus
I love that.
and the idea of the sun energy, right? The solar plexus is obviously sun energy. In German, the sun is a feminine word, and the moon is
Hmm,
masculine,
that's
right?
interesting. I didn't know
That
that.
that froze me, and when I learned that, it was like, sorry, what? Because in French or in
Italian.
Greek or in German or in Italian, nouns have genders. So
Right,
basically, and so the moon is feminine. We say la lune in French,
right.
but in German, the moon is masculine and the sun is feminine, which is contrary to all the other languages that I speak or that I've heard of. So it's really interesting. The even that even the symbolics of, the moon is a feminine entity, blah, 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 and the sun is a masculine entity. Well, no, depends on what language you grow up in.
Isn't that incredible? I'm even thinking about like Saint Francis and, Father, Sun, and Sister Moon, right? Like
Yeah.
in La Luna in
Hmm.
Italian,
Yeah.
obviously, it's, almost the
But I
same
think
as
it's really
French.
interesting because it helps us, well, it helps me at least understand the learning different languages and learning things like that helped me understand that we grow up in a very specific construction of culture and symbolics and metaphors and archetypes. And actually, some of them are not universal.
I know it's
German people,
incredible.
German people think that the sun is a feminine energy.
Isn't
Sorry,
that
what?
incredible?
So,
Thank you. Thank you for enlightening me without
I think
any
there's
run-on
another
work.
language. I think there is it's the same in Japanese, but don't quote me on that. But for German, I'm absolutely sure. When I was taught that at school, I was 12 years old. I was learning German at school. It was like that's not possible. It was
I know
like
it
the
seems
teacher
so
must be
deep.
wrong, you know.
Right, because when I think of the moon, it feels
Yeah, exactly.
feminine. It feels feminine to me.
Hmm. Me too. Me too.
Incredible.
It's the same in Greek, in
Incredible.
French, in Italian. It makes sense. La luna,
I
not in
love it.
German.
I love it because it's just one, I mean, and it's, and it is so completely relevant to what we're talking about because reality, as no matter how we perceive it, it is just not fixed.
No.
And the more that we learn something new, the more that we can have a different perception about life, reality, ourselves. It's amazing. It's magical.
Yeah. And that shows how much of our experience is personal for me. That gives me a lot of hope that I can keep growing out of my little personal experience, that is like a little bubble there. And the more I grow, the more I, learn things, but also open up my soul and my heart to new things, the more I feel that I can evolve. And I love that.
I do
And
too.
at the
It's
same
amazing.
time, I have some German friends. They're amazing people. We can even connect with people who have a completely different background, culture, etc., etc. And there I can feel how we connect on more than intellectual, but on soul, fifth dimensional, energetic
Exactly.
things that then, it doesn't matter whether they call the moon a man or masculine energy.
It's
But I think
incredible.
it's really, yeah. Do you have a final, because we're kind of going over time and I don't want to keep you here. Um, do you have a final advice for women or for people in general? How do you cultivate this soul-fueled confidence? Do you have a technique, a practice that you can do, or all of the above that we've been talking for an hour?
There's a little tiny method framework that I do have that I encourage everyone, who really wants to kind of lean into creating confidence in a different way. Um, I call it my 5C framework essentially, and it really is about taking the time, being intentional to connect to your soul in meditation or breath work or just a mindfulness practice, every day, really, even for 5 minutes, where you can just be in that as soon as you wake up and you're still kind of in that alpha state of just saying, like, who do I want to be? What do I want to do? What do I want to create? And just completely align with that authentic, the essence of who you are. The thing about aligning with the essence of who we are is that it immediately puts us in a higher vibration.
Mm,
And then we get, and the 5C framework, I should say, is connection, clarity, confidence, creating, and then conjuring and communicating whatever it is we want to bring into the world for
mm,
impact. And the beautiful thing about connecting is that we're aligning with our authenticity. And
Mm,
we are living in that age right now. This is the age of really stepping out and being our authentic selves. No more putting on the dog, as
yeah.
we would say in, I think, probably American English vernacular. No more putting on the dog. So it's really alignment. So you're very clear about who you are not, what resonates with you, what doesn't resonate with you. So you're open to all of the creative downloads that are just coming in. So we think that we're kind of on the planet to do all these like human things, but at the end of the day, we're really here to create our reality.
Yeah.
And so once we're clear about who we are not, what thoughts and beliefs and people and everything around us resonate with us and bring us in a higher vibration, what we can release and let go of, now it's time to create with confidence. And
Mm,
that's where that authentic alignment really comes in to play. There are no wrong answers.
yeah.
Whatever we're hearing and whatever our souls are tapping us on the shoulder or whispering in our ear, have at it and have
Yeah.
fun. Relax and have fun with the process, play on the planet. Because even I think when life brings us down and things happen, the earth really still is our playground. We came here to create.
Yeah.
And so, go through that process, confidently create with that soul fueled confidence and bring whatever it is you want into the world and that beautiful high vibe, raise the collective consciousness, create impact, live out your vision, and just play and have fun.
Yeah.
You are the only one who answers to who you are.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I would add one thing, celebrate. See it.
Absolutely.
See it.
Yep, absolutely.
See your creation, see your life as your creation. And that
Right.
changes everything, you know.
Right. It's kind of, when we're 7 and we say to our mom, look at what I did.
Hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
look
then,
at what I did. And then we go again
of course, because,
because it's
there's still
never
time.
ending.
There's still
Yeah.
time.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's really about being a vessel. It's really about being a vessel. None of our ideas are our own. They're coming from all that is.
And
We're
that
really
gives,
just the channel.
that is such both a relief and a boost of confidence. You
Right.
know, if I don't, if I'm just open to that, then I can be anything.
I agree, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, now I can create another program all about channeling our confidence.
Of course.
Yes.
So, this is episode 2 about confidence, as you might have guessed if you've been listening. And we have an episode 3 coming. I don't really exactly know the dates, but if you're listening to that in the present, then it's not out yet. If you're listening to this in the future, it might be already out. And it's going to be all about your amazing system that you already created. Don't go and create another one in between, because or we'll have to make a 4th episode. So the ZenFlow OS system that I want to know everything about. So if you guys who are listening also want to know everything about that, well, stay tuned for another episode with the incredible Dr. Sheri. The time has flown, and I have to remind you that you will find all the links to Dr. Sheri's socials, website, and maybe if you're good, she has a few freebies for you. So you'll
I'm
find
sure I
all
will
of
find
that.
something fabulous.
You will find all of that below the video or the audio, wherever you're listening to this. And thank you very much for coming, Sheri. I'm
Thank you for
as
having
per
me.
you.
I
Yeah, I love
love
having
connecting with
conversation.
you.
Yeah, me too. And thank you to the listeners for listening. And I hope you like it enough to come back another time. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.